Not to get her in it.
Well, I saw it's coming this way.
Okay. Now I don't have to shout over over the distance in the water.
What?
All right, so basically, I feel like they didn't want me to pay my car off, and it's been a wild situation. So basically, we had this car payment, and you know we had the money to pay the thing off, but it's such a low interest rate. I was like really not inspired to pay it off, which is why we financed it to begin with. But at some point, I just said, you know what? Let me just lower my monthly expenses and eliminate this monthly payment. So I was like, all right, let me pay this car off, right?
What kind of car is it?
It was an Acura.
Like a SUV?
Acura MDX.
MDX, okay.
Yeah, SUV. So I said, so I logged into the website, you know, Acura Financial, and I had to get the payoff balance. So I got the payoff balance, and it was good for like a couple of weeks or something like that. And I would normally send my car payment in through Bank of America Bill Pay.
Okay.
Now, when they send that payment, it's a paper check that they end up cutting, and so they get it like maybe 5 days later. And I was doing that for like the last 30 payments. So once I got the payoff, which was good for like 2 weeks, I was like, well, okay, let me go to Bank of America. Let me put in the payoff amount. And then I added like an extra $20 or $30 just to make sure.
To be safe.
Yeah. That way they could just.
Because they'll cut you a small little check if there's an overpay and send it back to you.
Bingo.
Well, they're supposed to.
So I was like, all right, cool. Let me just be done with this. So I sent it over, and like 2 weeks goes by, and I'm like, let me go ahead and log in and see that it's paid off, right? I don't see that it's paid off. The balance is still there. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So I logged back into Bank of America to see if the check was cashed. Well, it said it was processed, but it didn't debit it from my checking account. So I was like, okay, it's processed, but what does that really mean? The money was still in my account, so Acura didn't take it. So then I end up calling Acura to say, hey, I sent you guys a check the same way we always send our car payments in. Have you guys received it? What's going on? I don't really know where this check is. It's kind of in limbo. My bank says processed. It also said that it should have, my bank, Bank of America, said it should have been delivered by June 23rd. Here it is, June 28th. I'm trying to understand what's going on here. So she pulls up the account, blah, blah, blah. Hey, I see that your last payment was like June 6th. I'm like, great. But what about this $12,000 that I just sent you?
Yeah, you're like, what about the check, though? I'm not talking about regular payment here.
Right. And she's like, well, I don't see anything. I don't see any notes on the account. And she's like, well, maybe you give it a couple more days. I'm like, it was mailed like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Bank of America says you should have gotten it 5 days ago.
You don't.
I think we waited enough.
Yeah, when it comes to like your information and money out like in the wilderness, if you will, that wait a couple days doesn't really sound satisfying. Now we bank with so I have one of my car loans through a credit union, but I bank with Bank of America and I bill pay to that credit union.
Okay.
And that car payment's due on the 21st. I will bill pay on the 10th. That's, you know, how many days is that? 11 days. And it still sometimes is not there until the 26th or the 27th. I've never been charged late or anything, but it'll tell me that it is processed within a couple days through Bank of America, and then the credit union just sits on it for the longest time before they ever show that it has been deposited into my account and then the car payment taken out.
But meanwhile, so are they debiting your account and then there's a gap between when it shows up on your car payment balance? So
the downside to Bank of America that I have realized is when I do a bill pay, it does not deduct it from my checking.
Right.
So I have to mentally, every time I look at my balance, go minus this, minus this, minus this, because they don't do it for you. And then I won't know that the credit union's actually gotten it and deposited it into their account until Bank of America pulls it out. And it still doesn't show my car payment being made at the credit union, even though they have gotten my money. There's still another couple days before that. I mean, our banks are quick to take the money out and send it away. You would think the banks that they're going to would be quick to take that money in and do something with it. But I think when it comes to the cars, that's interest and stuff like that. That's my only thought.
Well, that's kind of my thought too. It's like, Do the banks really want you to pay your debt off? Not if it's with them and you're a good paying customer, because their profits are based on the interest that they collect on the loans that they've made.
And you're a timely payer.
Yeah.
So you'd be the one person they want to hold on to versus the person that doesn't pay and they just go repo their stuff.
I'm the low risk guy that's paying the interest.
Now, when you called did you say the bank name that had the...
Bank of America?
No, the other one. Did you say that
Accurate Financial?
Accurate Financial. When you called them, was it easy to get a person on the phone?
Accurate Financial, I only had to hit like maybe 2 or 3 button presses, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay. Because most times you can't get anybody on the phone anywhere. It's like...
Well, okay, well, since you brought that up, I actually called the day before at like 4:58. I didn't realize that they closed at 5. And by the time I went through all these dumb prompts, it was 5.
And they were like, not happening. You know, they're sitting there looking at the phone ring going,
Yeah. And it's like, oh, well, we're closed now. And I'm like, but you were open when I first called.
Yeah.
But I had to go through all your crap.
When I started this situation, you were open.
And now they all done shut down the phone system.
So then what happened? Like you...
All right. So long story short, Kevin's favorite phrase. Case in point. The person at Accurate Financial said, hey, what we can do is you can enter your savings or your checking account information into the online website, or we can take it over the phone, and you can pay off the balance. It's instantaneous, and then if the check ever shows up, we just won't cash it. We'll cancel it. We'll destroy the check or whatever. And I'm like, but what if someone goofs up and they cash it, and obviously they're going to apply it to a zero balance, so it's going to be negative, and you'll end up sending it back to me, I'm pretty sure.
But that doesn't stop what happens to your bank account that it comes out of.
So it's like you're expecting, huh? Yeah. So then I try to stop. So at that point, so at that point she said, okay, well, what you could do is you can call your bank and have them do a stop payment on the check, and then call us back, and then try to, or go to the website, enter your checking account information, and pay it off that way. And I'm like, this really sucks, because I've made all of these payments by bill pay, but yet I can't pay my car off through bill pay, even though I've been making car payments using bill pay.
Yeah.
Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And y'all don't know what a check is. This is wild. Meanwhile, Bank of America says it's processed. Now, what I didn't want to do is hang up from her, wait God knows how long to get to a Bank of America representative, do a stop payment, then have to jump through hoops to get back on the phone with her. But I didn't want to take the risk of having 2 checks somehow, or 2 payments of that size go through.
Yeah.
So I said, screw it. Hung up with her. I'll call you back. So I called Bank of America. I asked for them to do a stop payment. It actually wasn't that hard to get through to someone at Bank of America. I got on the phone with a person within 3 minutes.
Oh, that's really good.
And she was very friendly and very helpful, and actually out of New York, so in the United States.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah. So, but here was the thing that was a little bit unsettling for me. She had to give me a disclaimer warning me of three different things. The first thing was, she said, before I process this stop payment on this check, I need you to understand that if any of the information you've provided is not correct, whether it's the address that the check is going to, or the amount of the check, or some other different things, if any of that is incorrect, there's a chance that the stop payment will not go through.
So before you get to that, that's interesting to me, because she's saying that if you messed up, then the payment couldn't be stopped. What if they messed up? What if they type it in wrong?
That's a good question.
Because who's to say who messed it up? You could have told them right, and they could have typed it wrong.
True.
You got somebody dyslexic on there, 124, and they put 142, and then there goes your money. How do you fight that one? Yeah, how do you argue that one? But anyway, back to what you're saying.
But to your point, it's like she read out the check amount, like down to the penny.
Okay.
There's only one of those in the last ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not writing that many checks of that size and that exact amount. I'm willing to bet for the years I've been there, I've never written that exact value. So technically, if there was any kind of mistake, it would have to be on their end, especially if she's reading to me the details of the check that she's going to do to stop payment on.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. Because you figure it's a It's a $12,000 check. So with the pennies, with the change, that's 7 figures.
Yeah.
I guarantee that combination of digits never came up before,
Yeah.
you know? Anyway, so that was warning number 1. Warning number 2 was if the recipient, in this case is Accurate Financial, converted the paper check that they mailed into a electronic check, then that overrides their ability to stop the payment.
That's what. So that's what confuses me. If they have a paper check, wouldn't they just deposit? Like how? That would be like an extra step in my mind. You get a paper check, you convert it to an electronic check, and then deposit it. That's a whole lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if people do that.
The e-check keeps you in the
Oh, you said what? The e-check.
having to go to the bank.
So they can just take your paper check in their office and convert it to an e-check in their office and go from there?
Honestly, that's kind of what I do now. Like if I ever get a check, I don't go to the bank. I
You
log
do
into
that-
my bank, scan it from
Oh,
the
so
app.
that's like the same thing, like the Bank of America app where you can scan
Yep.
the back and do all the stuff. That's e-check. Oh.
I didn't know that was
Well.
an e-check. Okay.
Hopefully you don't get screwed on that one. Do you remember the third one?
The third, I don't remember.
It obviously wasn't something that was earth-shattering or something that made you go, what the?
That's why I don't remember it, because out of the 3 things, she said, all right, here's disclosure 1, disclosure 2, disclosure 3. I asked her about this. I said, okay, the only thing I have a question about is option 1, or excuse me, warning number 1 and warning number 3. Whatever warning number 2 was, I knew it didn't apply, so I didn't care.
Or vice versa. You said 1, 2, and then you didn't remember 3. So.
Sorry. Out of the 3 warnings, 1 and 3 were the only things that applied to me.
Okay,
I
the
knew
second one-
warning number 2
okay.
was like not,
Okay.
relevant, so I didn't
Okay.
worry about it. Yeah.
Okay. So then you canceled the check.
So I said, you know what? Whatever. I'm going to take my chances, cancel this check. And then instead of calling the Accurate Financial back, I said, you know what? Let me just go to this website. Let me just do it from the online website. That way, at least I can like do a screenshot of the confirmation, and I'll be done with this thing, right? Now, number 1, Accurate Financial said it was going to be instantaneous. Number 2, which I didn't mention earlier to you, is that she said if you enter it online, from the portal, you can just delete your checking account information. That way it doesn't stay in our system.
Yeah.
Now, we all know once you put out there, it's out there somewhere.
It's out there somewhere.
I said, whatever, so I log into Accurate Financial, I enter the information, I paid off the balance, and it said processing. Now, when you say instantaneous, I'm thinking it's going to show immediately paid off. It didn't.
Yeah.
I then was trying to see, how do I delete my checking account data from here?
And there's no way you can
There was
while
no
it's
option for
processing.
that.
Because it's still processing.
It's still processing, and I
Yeah.
didn't want to interrupt it, so I waited the next day, and I, woke up and I logged back in the afternoon, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And it said, your account has been paid off. And before I even did that, like the night before when I was actually processing the payment, it confirmed your address to make sure that the title of the car gets mailed to the right address, which was great. So it's now paid off. I got my screenshot and everything like that, but where's my option to delete the checking account information from the website? I looked high and low. There was no option for that. And it told me the account has been closed because it's got a zero balance.
Yes, and then you can't go in and
I
take your
can't.
stuff out. Exactly.
So it's like it lets me log in. It shows me my account is empty or zero, but I can't do anything. So
they want you to think that because it's closed that your information just automatically goes away, but we all know that it's still sitting in there somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's going to be a problem.
Hopefully it never is, but we all know how data breaches happen.
Yeah.
So
How much did you stop payment cost?
they did it for free because I have some premium account or something.
I think normally a stop payment is like
$30?
I was going to say 79 or 39. I can't remember which one it is. I think over a certain amount it costs more to do a stop payment. Under a certain amount it costs less, if I remember correctly, on that with the stop payment checks. Stop check payment.
Yeah, I'm some kind of premier customer or something like that, whatever. Some P word,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it's free.
we were looking at something, or I was looking at something. I don't know if I think we were both looking at it, where they're doing this check washing thing, where they get your check.
Check washing?
They get
Wow.
your check, and they have this thing, and they can basically take out who it's to and the amount and refill it in with whatever they want and cash it or deposit it, and there's nothing you can do about it because it has your signature. It is your check. It cannot be proven if it was washed and refilled or not. So when you were saying that they still hadn't received your check, that was my first thought. Was we were talking about the post office. Yeah, that would negate a stop payment. So that was the other thing. So if somebody had gotten your check and they were doing something to it, not only would it negate your stop payment, they could still deposit it and you would be liable for whatever went through because you couldn't prove it unless you have those carbon copies. But you sent it through bill pay, so you may be able to do something because they would have a transaction with the number, the check number, and everything else. But we were seeing that, we were talking about the post office, and they were saying, don't mail your checks and don't do the stuff because people are stealing stuff out of the blue mailboxes and checks. They're getting those and they're doing the whole check washing thing and redoing it and cashing it for themselves. So I personally am not a fan of checks because it has your routing number, it has your account number, it has your address on it. Like I used to buy Girl Scout cookies and stuff when I was younger.
Yeah.
If I didn't have cash, I didn't have Girl Scout cookies. I didn't do the things at the kids' school where they, at Christmas they sell the wrapping paper and stuff. If you don't take cash, I'm not doing it. I'm not giving my credit card number to my kid to take to school to give to a teacher to do who knows what with. And then in Cozumel. So when we were on our cruise last week, we get to Cozumel, right? And we go through their little entrance thing and the lights are on and all the employees are there and everything's great. It's jovial. There's music and it's air conditioned and whatever else. By the time we get done with our little catamaran thing and come back, all the power happens to be out. And the people are still there and you can still make your purchases if you have cash, or we'll write down your credit card number and bill you when the electricity comes back up. And I told him, I said, ain't no way in hell you're getting my credit card number in another country where you can write it down and I don't know what you're going to do. Because he was like, isn't it better to give away $1,000 worth of stuff to get 1,000 different credit cards? And you can do whatever you want with it later. There's no way to trace it or whatever because they're not putting a chip in. They're just typing everything. Mm-hmm. That's sketchy to me. Super sketch. What's that? I don't know. So your car's paid off.
Oh, yeah.
And no word on the check. Like, it's just...
You know what? That's an interesting thing. I'm going to have to call the bank and be like, hey, when will we ever know that there's nothing that will ever come of this? Is there a statute of limitations? Because technically, based on those warnings, those kind of are always in play.
Yeah. So, I mean, because the people could literally get your check and deposit it, and your account's already closed, so it's not like you're going to see a positive balance. Yeah. Does the Bank of America electronic check they send out, does it have your account number for Acura Carland?
Yeah, it would be on the check itself.
It would be on the check itself. So at least there's that. But if your account's closed, does it still pull up an account number, I wonder? Or do they just now have a check for $12,000? They're like, go shopping with. They're gonna call you and be like, "Well, you've already paid,
back, but we give you store credit.
You've already got your down payment. So come on in and pick something out."
There's some stores that are closing, restaurants, and all the people who bought gift cards. There's companies going out of business.
Oh, I was thinking about that because your mom got us a gift card to Miller's Ale House or whatever.
I'm sorry.
I know we used it, but if we hadn't used it, you got to think. If it gone out, you can't. What I found a Macy's gift card. Your mom gave us Macy's gift cards also. Macy's is still in existence, right?
Oh, they are?
Okay. They are. But I had a Riches one at one point, and Riches had gone out of business. Shit. I couldn't use the Riches card anymore. Wow. You had a Sears gift card. You can't use the Sears gift card anymore. Like all these different things that you can no longer use that somebody spent money on.
True.
That you were expecting to go and spend money on. And it's just they got their money and you got nothing for
Disappeared in thin air.
Yes.
Did Riches go out of business, or did any company end up buying them out?
Macy's bought them out. But from what I remember, because I worked at Riches at one point. Well, I worked at the Planet Smoothie inside Riches. Yeah. So from what I remember, once Riches was out, they would take your Riches credit card for like the first 30 days. 30 days or 3 months. It was something with the threes, either 30 days or 3 months. But after that, you had to convert over to Macy's. But it wasn't just they were going to send you a Macy's one. You had to reapply for a Macy's credit card.
And pull your credit again.
Yeah, and pull your credit again.
That's no different than Chase. When Chase took over First Republic, and they stated that we're not going to renew lines of credit for First Republic.
Oh,
so
really?
Chase took over First Republic, and they're not going to renew lines of credit for First Republic, is what you're saying.
Interesting.
That is, well, you got to think about it. If Chase took over First Republic, it's because First Republic needed help. So why would you want to renew lines of credit for the people who caused First Republic to need help? If you look at it like that, I don't know.
I mean, but it sucks because, you know, not everyone that had lines of credit with First Republic were necessarily bad borrowers, you know?
Yeah.
But either way, whether you're a timely borrower or not, you end up having to reapply.
Credit cards do weird things. I got a Chase credit card, a Disney one, because I wanted to be able to get all the Disney points and stuff.
Yeah.
Had like a $20,000 limit on it. They sent it to me, and I didn't use it. I'd only had it for like 2 months. I did not use it. I also did not know that there was a yearly fee that went on it, and I would have thought that fee would have been at the end of the year once I realized there was a fee.
Yeah.
They put it on the very first, whatever. I don't check the mail at the apartment that often. I did not realize I had a bill come in, and I did not pay it off within the first 14 days after getting it. They shut my account down.
Dude, you lucky that's all they did.
They completely took it away.
But think about it.
I'd never used the card. They shut down my credit card after 45 days of saying yes to it because I did not pay a $49 yearly fee that I did not realize that it had because I did not get the bill.
Think about how much worse this could have been for you. You didn't pay that fee. All these days have gone by. Your balance hasn't been paid, so it's technically late. That could have jacked up your credit.
Oh yeah.
For a card you never technically used.
Yeah. Now, see, if they had sent something to my credit, I would have gotten an alert and I would have known. But I had no idea until I did go check the mail and I was like, what is this? And then I got, it's because I went to use the credit card when we were going to we were going to Disney or something, and I went to go use it and it wouldn't go through. I was like, why is this not working? And I remember I called the number on the back and it said that my balance was zero, my available credit was zero. And I was like, how in the, because I've never used it.
Yeah.
Then I go check the mail and the first thing I see is we've canceled your account due to lack of payment. And so I emailed them, I called them. I'm like, listen, I was not aware. Here's your money. Like, I will pay it. I didn't realize that there was a fee, like literally the day you get this card. I did not know. And they were like, sorry. I was like, all right, well, nothing's changed. My credit's still the same. I should still be, whatever. But they said no.
You're lucky that that's all that happened. Because imagine they close out the account. It's in a late status.
So delinquent.
More than 30 days. And think about it. By the time the credit alerting would have happened, it would have been probably alerting you that you're late. And it's like, well, now the bureaus, credit, Experian, Equifax, all those guys, they already know that the account was late. Now your credit score tanks. Yeah. It's like, dang, I didn't even use this thing,
Well, it still did hurt my credit score because my debt to income ratio made a drastic change because $20,000 credit card is gone.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then Old Navy, I had an Old Navy card. The Old Navy card they gave me had like a $1,500 limit on it, right? I never used it. They dropped it down to a $150 limit.
That
I didn't use it. And then they sent me a thing and said, hey, we've canceled your credit card for non-usage. So there's another one. Yeah, Barclay did that because they bought out Gap Inc. for the credit cards and stuff. They did it to everybody.
Dude, that could have been so much worse. So look at it like this. You take a credit hit just for the inquiry when you apply for the card. So you're already going to lose a few points there. Probably 10, 15 points, whatever. If they had left the account open, or if they weren't kind enough to clearly wipe out that annual fee that they charged up front you didn't know about, you could have been late for 30 plus days not known about it. That also could have brought your score down further. And then when they close the account, it's like it's like by closing that account, you now are having a very short-term account length, which also is a negative or is likely to be a negative on your credit report.
Yep.
That could have been really bad.
Yeah.
That could have been really bad.
Yeah. It's a good thing I'd already used my credit for everything I needed to buy.
But it also goes to show what these banks are doing now, because it used to be these cards that had these annual fees, they don't charge them until like the renewal.
Yeah.
And then most people will cancel on like month 11. They done got the free points.
That's probably why they did it, because too many people are doing that.
Yep.
And I guess they're like, if your credit's good enough to get a $20,000 credit line with us, you're good for $49.
Yeah.
Which would have been the case if I had checked my mail and realized that there was a thing. So there's that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad your car's paid off, though.
Thank you.
One less bill. That's a plus.